Bobby Carpenter played at Ohio State and the Dallas Cowboys here in the Big D at BCarp3 on Twitter. The Morning Juice up in Columbus, and he is also a contributor for Outkick, and he joins us now on the Pepsi Hotline. What is up, Bobby? How are you?
Not much, gentlemen. Just getting excited as we kind of round into the New Year's Day and New Year's Eve bowl games. You know, it's been a pretty good bowl season. The games that have gone off, I've really enjoyed. So excited here to get to Friday and to see those semifinal matchups.
Yeah, let's start with the one that's here in a place you know well, in Dallas, with Alabama and Cincinnati. You were on with us a month or so ago, and you talked about your relationship, your knowledge of Luke Fickell. When you look at this team, and I know it's hard to compare an Alabama to Cincinnati that have not even played yet, but do they look a lot alike as far as – I'll give you an example. 2012, I walked down on the field before Bama Notre Dame. Bobby, there was a significant difference in those two teams. I didn't even play the game. I got two eyeballs, though. You can look and tell the difference. Do Alabama and Cincinnati look alike to you?
I think when you look at probably the top-end players, they look pretty similar. It's really what it comes down with Cincinnati is the depth and quantity of those guys. Like the reason why their team is really good this year, in part, is how veteran they are. They've got a ton, like 4 or 5, 6 guys come back, the super seniors, Desmond Ritter being one of them. When you have a quarterback that's 6'5", 215 pounds, that can run really well, is really athletic, moves around. You have big defensive linemen. They roll about 6 guys through there. They've got some really talented defensive backs in Kobe Bryant and Sauce Gardner. And so when you look at these guys, all right, those guys physically look the part. The difference is, when you're, in Alabama or Georgia or Ohio State, Oklahoma, wherever it might be, a lot of times the guys you're bringing in, you're going to develop them and they're going to get bigger and stronger. But day one, when they get on campus, they could probably start at most schools. Well, Cincinnati doesn't have that. Most of their guys, they have to develop a little bit. They have to continue to work with, to grow them physically, to continue to improve their speed. So I think when you look on the field, you see Cincinnati's offensive and defensive linemen, you're going to think, okay, it's 5 guys, look really good up front. They physically look like they can handle it for the most part. Defensive line-wise, they've got the guys that you feel like they'll be able to get it done. But you start looking down the line, and that's why if this is a game where it becomes a bludgeoning and Bama's possessing the ball a lot, that's when you get worried if you're Cincinnati, just due to the fact that you don't have the overwhelming volume of players that can continue to play at that high level.
Bobby, one of the most baffling things as the season played out for me was, and I understand that Ohio State has Olave and Wilson and Njigba, but how Jamison Williams only had 9 receptions for that Ohio State team last year.
Those other guys are probably going to be first-round draft picks, as well. Jamison Williams, very honestly, I watched him at Ohio State. He's one of the most talented athletes I've ever seen with my own 2 eyes. His ability to stop, start, change direction, his strength, his explosion, his top-end speed. He has all of it. He really does. He's a heck of a player. At Ohio State, there were some inconsistencies that he was dealing with, and it was a very, very competitive receiver room. And so he had a great spring. I know the receivers coach Brian Hartline personally. He's a friend. We played together at Ohio State. He's one of the best talent evaluators and developers at that position. And Jamison Williams is going to play this year. But was he going to play probably as much as he did this year with Bama? Probably not. He had a great spring, and he made a big push to be the 3rd receiver. He was going to get in and get reps. He's had a tremendous year with Alabama. And I don't think Brian would have sat here and told you, this guy's really good. He's going to be a first-round pick. He just needs a little more polishing. And, if the room was a little thinner at Ohio State, then I think he probably would have been able to play, much quicker and be a much bigger player on the team last year and then, potentially going into this year as well. But the inconsistencies had, which you see some drops this year, some of those things, and he'll miss a route every once in a while. But that's all part of the maturation process. But they didn't necessarily need him on the field playing and play out. And so I think that's part of the reason why you saw that divergence there, and then him going on to have a great season with Alabama.
Bobby, Alabama's defense at times last year and then this year, people called it into question, especially earlier in the year. But it seems like mid-October last year, mid-October this year, Pete Golding dials that defense in, and they seem to peak right when it comes to this crunch time. What's your evaluation of that Alabama defense coming into this battle with Cincinnati?
They're really good. And like you mentioned, they've gotten better. At the beginning of the year, there were some inconsistencies. They blow a coverage here. You'd see them in blitz, like their blitz pass always weren't great. When they choose to bring pressure, there was just things that were very uncharacteristic of a Saban defense. And last year, it was a little bit more through the duration of this year. At the end of this season, they've really begun to come together and turn it on. It's been pretty impressive to watch that. The hallmark of a great coach is that your teams not only are good, but they continue to improve throughout the year. And I think Nick Saban, being a Bill Belichick disciple and being on staff with him, understands that as well as anybody in college football. And that's part of the reason why it happens. But I wouldn't, as good as this Bama defense is, and it's one of the better ones in college football, I don't think it's historically one of their best defenses they've had while Saban's there. And there are some times where people can get some stuff going on them, a little bit. But, when you have great coaches, you have time to put together a great game plan over, a period of 3-4 weeks. You're usually going to be pretty dialed in, especially if you're a guy who's as disciplined as Nick.
Bobby Carpenter is with us at BCarp3 on Twitter, former Ohio State and Dallas Cowboy linebacker. And you can see him contributing at Outkick, the Morning Juice as well there up in Columbus. He's with us on the Pepsi hotline as we continue from Dallas to the Cotton Bowl. Nick Saban today in his media availability said, I keep reading in the media that the way to beat Alabama is pressure the quarterback. And it almost sounded like Nick Saban wanted to invite Luke Fickell to continue to pressure the quarterback when he said that.
Well, I think part of it is, when you have a quarterback, and believe me, Bryce Young, you won a Heisman Trophy. He's a great player. But I think part of it is, them looking at this, he's still young. And if you pressure young players, typically, not with everybody, but typically those guys, can make some mistakes. And so that's what I think, they're looking at is this Bama offensive line has struggled. You look at the game they lost to A&M, there was pressure on them. Auburn was able to get some pressure early on, until like the final, I guess, 5, 6, 7 minutes of that game. And so that anytime you can pressure a quarterback and not just bring pressure, I'm talking about actually getting there and getting some sacks, moving him off his spot. The thing with Bryce Young, he's a really talented athlete. And I knew he was gifted, but not until watching some of the times he pulled the ball down against Georgia and seeing him run did I realize that he was that proficient of an athlete. And so that's going to be the challenge. If you do choose to bring pressure, I think Bryce Young wants to hang in the pocket. But in games like this, hey, it's about winning. It's not always just about looking pretty. And he can pull the ball down and gas you for 25 yards. And so I think that may be part of the issue that Cincinnati's battling here.
Okay, off the wall question here. You were drafted by the Cowboys. You played there for a few years. Better chance of happening: Cowboys win their first Super Bowl championship in more than a quarter of a century, or the Bearcats pull off the upset against Alabama?
Ooh.
Excuse me, one more time.
Okay, better chance of happening: Cowboys win their first Super Bowl in 26 years, or Cincinnati beats Alabama straight up Friday?
My goodness, I apologize. I was only getting part of the question. With that, you said better chance of happening, Bama winning or Cincinnati winning straight up, or
the Cowboys winning the Super Bowl? Bobby? Yeah, I believe we lost Bobby there.
That was a tough question.
He didn't like the tempo there, Lance. But we appreciate his time. Bobby Carpenter with us on the Pepsi.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. You threw him.
It's a brain freeze. The lost in translation, the old Bill Murray.
So if I ask you guys.
I think Bobby may be back. Bobby, are you with us now? All right, that's it. We'll give up on that one.
All right. Bobby Carpenter with us on the Pepsi.
Oh, he's back. He's talking. Okay. Bobby, I think we got you now.
Did you get that, Bobby?
You said which has a better chance of happening, Bama winning straight up or what? Cowboys winning the Super Bowl?
No, Cincinnati beating Bama straight up or Cowboys winning Super Bowl.
Yes, I apologize. I misspoke on that. Goodness, I would say here's the thing: in a one-off situation where you just have one game, I would say that's always more likely than a team going on a run, because you would be talking about Dallas potentially going to Tampa Bay, beating Green Bay, and then obviously whoever that would be on the other side as well with Kansas City, New England, Buffalo. There's a number of good teams, Tennessee, that they would have to deal with. So running the table always more difficult than just a one-off game.
Bobby, terrific stuff. We appreciate the time as always. We encourage everyone to go follow Bobby at bcarp3. Look at his stuff at Outkick and also the Morning Juice there in Ohio. Thank you, Bobby. Take care. Have a great new year. All right, that is Bobby Carpenter with us, the former Ohio State and Dallas Cowboy great on the Pepsi Hotline.